Good evening. Good evening, one and all. How's it going this evening? Hope you're all doing fantastic. Yeah, sorry I didn't do a stream yesterday. I didn't get back in time, so there was no live stream yesterday. But tonight we will make up for it with the case of Child F. And as per usual, we'll be taking a look at both Lucy Letby's evidence in chief, which is questions that she was asked by her own barrister, Benjamin Myers Casey. And then we'll take a look at what she said regarding the exact same case, the case of Child F, when she was asked questions by the prosecution during her cross-examination. Let's just say hello to a few of you before we get underway this evening. Jenny Pete Mills, welcome to you. John, welcome to you. Thanks for joining us. Susie M, welcome. Beautifully fractured. Thank you for joining us yet again. Tweeter and the Monkey Man, welcome to you. Miss Blackwell. Amy White, welcome to you. JB, in the house as always. Nicola, welcome to you. I never managed to catch the live. I watched later. Well, here you are, hopefully in person. Lenny the Legend Russell, thank you for joining us this evening and for your moderating duties, as well as Terence Stamper. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, don't forget to hit the old like button. I keep forgetting to say that. So if you could hit the like button, that would be much appreciated. Who else we got in here? David the Zimmerman, welcome to you. Thanks for joining us yet again. Lucy Blue, welcome to you. Lindsay H. Miss Rattle is in the house. Let's make sure I don't miss anybody before we start off proceedings. We've got Moran, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Welcome to you. Thanks for joining us. Mr. Bazda, welcome to you. Stuart Kelly, thank you for joining us yet again. Totem Crow. Anne McGee, welcome to you. Thanks for joining us. And as I say, tonight is one of the insulin cases. This is going to be the first one, which is Child F. We'll take a look at Lucy Letby's evidence in chief, and then we'll take a look at what she said regarding the exact same case when she was under cross-examination by the prosecution. And again, these are official court transcripts paid for by myself and the channel. And if you do wish to support the channel and the work that I do, you can find out how to do that down in the video description box below. All support is always greatly appreciated. Right. Okay. And again, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Adam, welcome to you. You must be a fan of the old Essex Boys case then, I would imagine. I do actually hope to do a Essex Boys live stream at some point, whether that's this week or next week, one or the other. Leslie, thanks for joining us again. My word, Lenny Russell has gifted 10 memberships. We've also got a private members-only stream, which will be happening later this week. Further details to follow. And thank you so much to Lenny Russell, who has gifted 10 memberships to the channel. That's greatly appreciated. That's very, very kind. Thank you so much. So that means that an extra 10 people will be able to join that live stream later on this week. That's incredible. Thank you so much, Lenny. I had no idea you were going to do that, so thank you. Much appreciated. Vanessa. It must be morning where Vanessa is. Welcome to you. And Morella DeVille, welcome. Penn's Initiative Art, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Okay. I think I've pretty much covered everybody by the looks of it. And thanks again so much for that, Lenny. That's a massive help. Thank you. Greatly appreciated. Right. Okay. I've got the old green tea on the go tonight. So keep the vocal cords fresh. And Katie's got a membership, I believe, as well. Excellent. Great stuff. We had a really good turnout for the first member stream, because I think I've got about 70 members now and 60 people turned up. So that was incredible. Really, really good. And it's kind of similar to what we do here. We take a look at some of the transcripts, some of the unreleased transcripts concerning the case of Lucy Letby. And they're accessible, as I say, just to the members. It's a one night a week kind of deal, where we have a private members only stream. Let's have a look here. I was going to buy you a coffee, but it didn't show us that just in $20, which is £19. I think it worked out as, how can I buy a coffee? I think you can choose the amount, can't you? I'm not entirely sure how it works. but you should be able to enter a custom amount, and then I'll get an email. It won't show on here, but I should get an email. But have a look. Okay. There are three amounts and no, because other people have donated like $5, $6. So there must be a custom amount that you can put in there. They're probably just the amounts that they put on the screen, but there will be a custom box that you can put in any amount you want, basically. Because I have had donations way less than that, of say like $2 even. There was the other day. So yeah, do have another look. Yeah, have another look, Totem Crow. Right, let's get cracking then, shall we, with the case of Child F. So as I say, this is one of the insulin cases. I don't think there's anything else I've forgotten before we start. I don't believe so. So let me just add a little banner here very briefly. Nope, that's the wrong one. Let's try and edit this one. I'm getting a bit more used to this now. So let's see how we get on. Child F. Look at that, it's like magic. Okay, right. So this is Benjamin Myers, Lucy Letby's barrister, asking her questions concerning Child F. So Mr. Myers says, I'm going to turn to Child F, and again, I do so understanding what we're dealing with here. I'll pause a moment. We'll look at Child F's birth details. In many ways, of course, they reflect Child E's because the lads were twins. I'm going to ask Mr. Murphy if we could look at some of the matters in the exhibits relating to Child E, which is on a different part of the system. Sorry, to Child F. My apologies, to Child F. We remind ourselves about the details for Child F. That's at tile 3, please, Mr. Murphy. Are you all right to carry on, Miss Letby? She replies, yes. All right, thank you. Date of birth, of course, the 29th of June. Child F was the second twin, and the time of birth is 1754. And Child F was 1.434 kilograms in weight. Can we look at tile 3 just a little bit further down? I can see in the writing issues in pregnancy. Just so we have this, we see IUGR. Is that intrauterine growth restriction? She replies, yes. Hopefully I've pronounced that right. TTTS. Is that twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome? Lucy replies, that's where identical twins share a placenta. No, sorry, Lucy said, twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome. Mr. Myers, that's where identical twins share a placenta. Is that right? She replies, yes. There may be issues with the blood flow between them. She replies, that's right. Then mild, we can see the first matter, mild, let's hope I get this right. Polyhydramnios, I think that's how you pronounce it, potentially. Do you know what that means? She replies, too much amniotic fluid. Around the baby during pregnancy? She replies, yes. All right, with Child F, count 6 on this indictment. We're looking at issues in relation to his blood sugar, his blood glucose in particular, and insulin. Are you able to carry on? She replies, yes. 2 seconds, have a little sip of the old tea. Right, Mr. Myers, just by way of summary, so we're all in the right place for this. We'll have a look at the chart in a moment to remind ourselves. What we have is from the 5th of August 2015, from about 0155 until about 1900 that same day. There were issues with Child F's blood glucose. It was too low, persistently low. She replies, yes. You understand what this is to do with, don't you? Yes, the allegation. Yes. There was analysis of a blood sample that was taken at 1756 on the 5th, so later into that day. That returned the following reading. C-peptide, 4,657 picomoles per litre. Then he says, I'll start again. Insulin, 4,657 picomoles per litre. C-peptide, 169 picomoles. Insulin, 4,657. C-peptide, 169. And as we've heard from the experts, that ratio is way out. She replies, yes. The insulin is far higher than it should be for that level of C-peptide. And you understand that allegation, don't you? She replies, yes. The first thing we'll do is just to remind ourselves from the chart what it is that happened. Then I'll ask you to talk us through some of the exhibits as far as we can this afternoon, Miss Letby. All right? She replies, yes. Let's take time to look at the chart and remind ourselves what that showed. Apologies for my voice. but it's just to remind us what we dealt with. Can we go to divider 6, please, in jury bundle 2, ladies and gentlemen? Miss Letby, have you got a copy of that jury bundle 2? Have a look at that, please. If we go to the back or towards the back of that, ladies and gentlemen, you might remember there's a chart which we have from Professor Hindmarsh that looks like this, indicating. I'm holding it up. It's the table of blood glucose readings. She replies, I don't have a copy. That's helpful, isn't it? He replies, J3146. Sorry, I4261. Mr. Goss then jumps in, the judge, and says, I know exactly what you're referring to when it's held up, but it's not in that section, Mr. Myers. The only other place I could think it is in is Child M section, Mr. Goss. It's jury bundle 1, Mr. Myers. Miss Letby, can you see it on the screen? She replies, yes. So we've either got it in paper behind divider 6 in jury bundle 1 or on the screens. This is just to refresh our memories about what we have. Let's go from the 5th of August 2015 at 01:54. We're not going to go to all the individual tiles. 01:54, which is about 30 minutes or so after a TPN is hung, that we're going to have a look at. Blood glucose is at 0.8. What would the normal range of blood glucose be for a neonate, Miss Letby? She replies between 2 and 2.5, more than that. So certainly 0.8 is low. She replies, yes. Right, let's just have a quick break there a second. Catch up with the chat. And again, thank you so much, Lenny, for those gifted memberships. That is greatly, greatly appreciated. Charlie, welcome to you. Thanks for joining us. Mish is in the building. Welcome to you. Oh, let's just see if I've missed anyone out. Oh, here we go. Humanimal. Welcome to you. Thank you for joining us, as always. Christopher Jones, thanks for joining us this evening. Brenda Wilkinson. Brenda Wilkinson has been gifted a membership by good old Lenny. Right, excellent, excellent. And Rachel Barker, thanks for joining us this evening. Good to see you here. Totem Crow has just come up on my Apple Watch here. Totem Crow just supported you with $6. Thank you so much for that, Totem Crow. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. Elizabeth Andrews. Hello, everyone from Louisiana. Welcome to you. It's great to have some US viewers. That's great stuff. Good to see. And Jane, welcome to you. Right, let's continue onwards. Yeah, thanks for that, Totem Crow. Greatly appreciated. It's come through on my emails. So yeah, it's all good. All good. Right, okay. Let's continue onwards, shall we? So, Mr. Myers, at 02:55, the blood glucose is 2.3. Is that still low? She replies, I can't remember whether it's more than 2 or more than 2.5 in the protocol at that time. He replies, sorry. All right, 0402, it's 1.9. That's low. She replies, it is, yes. At 5 o'clock, we have a reading of 2.9. She replies, that's within normal range. Mr. Myers, yes. But we'll see when we come to look at it in the evidence. That followed something that happened with dextrose. Then Mr. Goss at 0420. Mr. Myers, your lordship's there, yes. Mr. Goss, I've written it down, 10% dextrose, 3 mil at 0420. That's what Professor Hindmarsh said would account for the rise. Mr. Myers, we'll go back to that, but that's right. That's what happens there. In fact, for that matter, there's a 10% dextrose just before the rise, or the figure at 0255. We'll have a look at that as well. Just make sure I read that properly. In fact, for that matter, there's a 10% dextrose just before the rise, or the figure at 0255. We'll have a look at that as well, Mr. Goss. Yes, 0205, there was a previous one. Mr. Myers, thank you, my lord. 0809, 1.7, 10 o'clock on the 5th, down to 1.3. It says off intravenous fluid administration as cannula problems. You might remember there was an issue with the cannula tissuing and a change of the TPN, and we'll come to that. That was a little later. 11:46, 1.4. That's still low, isn't it? Lucy replies, yes. 12 o'clock, 2.4. We know sometime around there's a bag change, but we'll go to the documents in due course. 1400, 1.9, 1600, 1.9, 1800, 1.9. Those are all low, aren't they? She replies, yes. At 1855, nothing directly next to that, though there's a tile. The TPM was stopped then at 1855. The TPM was stopped, and in fact, a dextrose solution was run. And at 1900, the blood glucose is up to 2.5. She replies, yes. That's back into the normal range, isn't it? Yes. At 2117, 4.1, that's normal, isn't it? Yes. Right. Before we come to look at your part in child F's care, let me ask you this, Miss Letby. Did you administer insulin to child F? She replies, no. Did you interfere with any of the TPN bags so that could happen? She replies, no, I didn't. Do you know why the insulin C-peptide ratio was as high as it was for child F when that sample was taken at 1756? She replies, no. If child F did receive insulin he should not have received, does that have anything to do with you? She replies, no, it doesn't. 2 seconds. Okay, I'm back. Mr. Myers, do you have any idea how that will have happened if that is what has happened? She replies, no. Can we just look at the layout, please, for the shift where the first TPN bag that's followed, for the shift where that first TPN bag that's followed by the 0.8 glucose reading is hung? That's at tile 100. Let's see who's on that shift. At the start of this is on the child F sequence, tile 100. Shift leader, Belinda Simcock. In terms of nursing staff, this is designated nurse, nurse A. She's looking after child F that night. Is that right? She replies, yes. Do you have any independent recollection of that night outside the records and charts that we have? She replies, not really, no. Right. You were on the shift, so is Sophie Ellis, so were Valerie Thomas and Cheryl Cuthbertson-Taylor. Can we have a look at the layout of who was where? That's at tile 101. This is the evening after the early morning with child E, isn't it? This is the evening after the early morning with child E. She replies, yes. And you and nurse A are both working in nursery too. She replies, yes. Do you recall whether you'd cared for child F at other times in the period before this, whilst he had been on the neonatal unit? She replies, the night that child E died. All right, as we've heard before, this isn't a memory test. Mr. Justice Goss, she's already said she was the designated nurse for both of them to begin with. Mr. Myers, yes, on that night. Mr. Goss, child E and child F, but when child E became ill, she relinquished that role. Mr. Myers, so certainly the night before you played a part. She replies, yes, you were looking after child F. She replies, in the early part of the shift, yes. Right, 2 seconds, just catch up with the chat quickly. Let's have a look. Jean Robert or Jean Robert, one or the other. Welcome to you. Thanks for joining us this evening. Why are some nurses named and others not? Some have got anonymity. So I guess some of them applied for anonymity before the trial started to protect their identity. And I guess they were granted it. Some were granted it, I would imagine. I don't know if they all were, but it's just a privacy thing, isn't it? I suppose. Especially people who maybe still work there or work close by. It was possible to apply for anonymity. Yeah, that's basically it. Right, okay. Lenny Russell, excellent. I will get a big Super Soaker. Do you remember those from the 90s? Legendary toys. They were the old Super Soakers. Super Soaker 6000, whatever it's called. Oh, God. Fun times, fun times. Okay. Yeah, thanks again for your donation, Totem Croak. Greatly appreciated. So Dr. A applied for anonymity. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they had to apply for it. They weren't just given it. They would have to apply for it. Yeah, 2 seconds. Okay. Right, let's continue onward, shall we? So we've got Mr. Myers. Can we go back actually to the intensive care chart at page 3200, J3200? This isn't in the sequence, but just to have a look at your care with child F. We're going to look at 3200 into 3201. This is an intensive care chart for child F on the 1st of August 2015. Just look down at 2000 hours on that chart, just enlarge down in the bottom right hand corner, please. This isn't in your materials at this point up to now because it hasn't been on the dates we're looking at. But let's look at this now. So for the evening shift of the 1st of August at 2000 hours, who is performing the various cares for child F? She replies, that's myself. 2000, 2100? Yes. 2200? Yes. 2300? She replies, yes. Just remove this comment 2 seconds. 2400? Yes. Are you caring for him? She replies, yes. Did you want him to be all right? She replies, yes. Looking after him? Yes. Can we go over the page, please, to 3201, which continues into the early hours of the morning of the 2nd of August. At 0100, whose signature is that? She replies, they're my signatures. Where do we see your signature running through until? She replies, the last one is at 0700. Right, so that covers the period, in fact, of the evening shift, the night shift from the 1st into the 2nd of August. She replies, yes. That would be you looking after child F, yes? Yes. If we scroll down a little bit further down on this chart, let's pick up again now, going into the evening shift of the 2nd, because that was the morning on the 2nd, Can we scroll down to the lower part of the chart, please, Mr. Murphy? If we pick it up again, you're there until 0700 with child F, and now at 2000, who's that looking after him on the IC care chart on the 2nd? I guess that's intensive care chart. On the 2nd, she replies, that's myself. That's myself again. Right. Can we just go over to page 3202, carry on through the night of that shift into the following morning into the 3rd of August? Who is that caring for him until 0700, the end of that shift? She replies, again, that's myself. Okay, Mr. Myers, as you said and his lordship reminded us, on the night of the 3rd into the 4th, you were also caring for the twins. So you were caring for child F then? She replies, yes. And we then dealt with the events into the 5th with the blood glucose. We're going to come back to that. Before we do, could we go please to page 3008? Could we look at the left-hand side, please, Mr. Murphy, first? 1157. You understand the allegation, Miss Letby, is that on or around the 5th of August, you tried to kill child F. You understand that's the allegation? She replies, yes. This is a note by you at 11:57 on the 8th of August, written for the care of child F. How did you want him to be as you were looking after him on this occasion? She replies, I wanted him to be well. How did you want him to be? She replies, what do you mean? Sorry. Did you want to care for him? She replies, yes. Did you want to hurt him? No. Did you do anything to, I hate to put it indelicately, try and finish off anything that you had started anywhere else? No. Which is one of the themes in the allegations you are facing? No. Is that something you would do? Go back and finish it? She replies, no. Are you doing that here? No. You cared for him on the 8th of August. We see that in the note there. Can we go to the 9th of August, please, at page 3013. This is a note at 15:30 on the 9th of August. Written for care given from 0745 to present. Emergency equipment checked. Who's written this note, Miss Letby? That's me, she replies. Fluids calculated. Child F nursed in an incubator with humidity. Observations within normal range. Remains on Optiflow. Flow reduced. You described that in air, well tolerated, continues with 2-hourly feeds. Who would have been feeding him? She replies, me. EBM via nasogastric tube, that's expressed breast milk. Minimal aspirates obtained. Abdomen appears full but soft. Urine passed and watery milk stool, handling well. Medications given as prescribed via long line. It describes the Babevan infusion, and then just below that, 1533, no further changes at 1954, apologies, he says, on Optiflow, prongs positional, manages well when not in situ. Can we just go below that to the bottom of the page? You read that out for us, Miss Letby. What is it that you're doing here on the family communication 1533? She replies, you want me to read that out? He replies, yes, please. I've written parents resident on unit. Daddy has carried out cares this morning. Parents have been home for a few hours to make funeral arrangements for sibling child E. Now on units with other family members. And the note finishes over the page. If we could please scroll down, I'd be grateful, Mr. Murphy, to the next page. Could you finish that, Miss Letby? She replies, parents carried out cares and both had cuddles with child F. Happy that he has opened both eyes for the first time today. Mr. Myers, all right. Child F was discharged from the neonatal unit to another hospital on the 13th of August. Yes? She replies, yes. Did you do anything in this period we're looking at? Let's move on from the 5th of August. Anything to hurt child F? No. Or would you have wanted that? She replies, no. When you did have anything to do with him, what was your aim? She replies, for him, to care for him, to get him well enough to go home. Mr. Myers, well, what I'd do next, if I could, is to turn now to what's on the TPM prescriptions and the signatures. But I wonder whether, my lord, this is an appropriate point to stop and turn to that on Monday morning, because there's quite a lot of detail in them as we go through the bags. Miss Letby, if you remain where you are as usual, could I ask everyone to leave the court? That is the end of the proceedings for today. And indeed, this week until Thursday of next week. Right, so I think we've got a little bit of a break here. And then we come back. Right, okay, so let's have a little break here. And we'll continue in a second. Vala Hawks again with the $5.99. Thank you so much for your support. Greatly appreciated. As always, if you do wish to support the stream and the channel, you can find out how to do that down in the video description box below. All help, I was going to say hope. All help is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for that, Vala Hawks. Thank you. Okay. Right. Let's have a look here. Just make sure I've not missed anything before we continue. What's that all about? Let's have a look here. Yeah. We don't want to be discussing anybody in the chat that could lead to sort of, jigsaw identifying people or anything like that, piecing bits of information together. People who have been given anonymity, it's there for a reason. And, clearly on something like a live stream, particularly on YouTube, that has to be respected. So I'm sure you understand that. What do they call it? Jigsaw identifying or identity or identifying or something like that, where, you know what I'm talking about anyway. But right, let's carry on, shall we? Yeah, I mean, it's not that I particularly agree with certain people having anonymity, but at the end of the day, the rules are there for a reason, aren't they? People, we have to abide by them, particularly on something like this, a public forum. But yeah, there we go. Right, let's continue onwards. So now we move forward to 10:30 a.m. in the presence of the jury. Miss Letby, continued examination in chief by Mr. Myers. Right, so Mr. Myers, Miss Letby, you were last giving evidence on the 5th of May. We're now the 15th. I just want to bring us up to speed. There have been delays for good reason, delays that are unavoidable. But over this period, you've been waiting to continue, haven't you? She replies, yes. All right. And just so everyone can understand the position, you haven't spoken with your legal representatives over the period we've been waiting, have you? She replies, no. So again, that's another common misperception, I guess you would say, from a lot of people, where certain people believe that she would have had coaching by her own barrister, and that's just not a thing. You can see here we've had a gap of 10 days, and she hasn't spoken to her legal representatives during that period. So, it's quite interesting and worth pointing out, I suppose. Let's move forward. Mr. Myers. That, of course, includes me. Just so we all understand, in the normal course of events, and this is no different, a witness isn't allowed to speak. And again, it's going to clarify it here, isn't it? A witness isn't allowed to speak with legal representatives once they start to give evidence. Certainly, a defendant doesn't in Miss Letby's position. So we're picking up really where we finished 10 days ago, aren't we? She replies, yes. All right. So just tune in and get comfortable, if it's at all possible, with where you're sitting, Miss Letby, to do that. All right. I want you to listen carefully. But we'll take this steadily as we go along, as we get along. All right? Are you listening to me? She replies, yes. Are you listening to me? Yes. I'm going to bring us back to where we were with child F, which is count 6, ladies and gentlemen. And we were looking at when we were last here. Child F, of course, was the twin of child E. All right? Born on the 29th of June even, 2015 at 1754. 29 weeks and 5 days gestation. And he weighed 1.434 kilograms. We're not going to go over everything that we looked at when we dealt with child F. But what I'm going to do is just remind ourselves, and I'll ask you if you can look at this too, ladies and gentlemen, of that chart with the blood sugars, so we know what we're dealing with. We should know where that is now, as we had a practice run on this on the 5th. A practice run at this on the 5th. It should be behind divider 5 in jury bundle 1. So I'm going to ask if you can follow what we're looking at, Miss Letby. I know it's me talking to start with, just to bring us back to where we were. In child F's case, Miss Letby, as we all know, from about 1:54 a.m. on the 5th of August, he had low blood glucose. And that continued through until about 1900 that day. Just to remind us, we'll look at the chart. A sample of blood taken at 1756 that day returned an insulin reading of 4,657 picomoles per litre and a C-peptide of 169 picomoles per litre. You'll remember, and the jury will remember, that ratio is out. That's far too high insulin for naturally occurring insulin. That's far too high insulin for naturally occurring insulin, we're told, and therefore that's what we're looking at. So that's far too high insulin for naturally occurring insulin, we're told, and therefore that's what we're looking at. Let's just look at the chart, Miss Letby. If you just look at that with me, please. Let's look from the 5th of August to remind ourselves of the figures. At 01:54 in the morning, blood glucose was at 0.8, which, as we know, is a low reading. Just dealing with what's on the chart, at 02:55, it was 2.3. But we know, and we'll return to this, there had been a bolus of dextrose given to child F in between those two readings. At 04:02, it was down to 1.9. At 5 o'clock in the morning, it was up to 2.9, but again, there had been a bolus of dextrose given in between those readings. Right, 2 seconds, guys. Just have a sip of my old tea. I hope Lenny's on the old Yorkshire tea this evening. I think he said he was having a cup of Yorkshire tea earlier. No, I'm not vaping. That's for after the stream. This is my little break. This is my little break from that. Right, let's continue. Mr. Myers, at 0809, 1.7, which is low again. 10 o'clock, 1.3. 11:46, 1.4. 12 o'clock, 2.4. At 1400, it was 1.9. 1.9. These are low. And at 1600, 1.9, 1800, 1.9. The TPN was stopped at 1855 and dextrose simply was run through. At 1900, it was up to 2.5, the blood glucose. At 2117, 4.1. So we're going to look at what happens with the bags, as far as you can tell us, Miss Letby, over this period. I should say, child F, we established this also, received care from you before this period, and also, if you remember, afterwards. You looked after him on other dates, didn't you? She replies, yes. All right, let's have a look at the bags. I'm going to ask if we can put on the screen, please, tile 17. This is a chart for the TPN bags that we don't have in paper, but it's where the TPN bags start when we're following them with child F. If we can open that, thank you. I'm going to ask if we can take a look at the whole document first, so we know what we're dealing with, and then we can go and look at it, and then we can go and look at the detail. So this is the sheet we're looking at, and it starts with the 1st of August, and if we keep in mind that the 5th of August is the date that we're focusing on. Let's have a look at the first entry, if we could, for day 4, please, Mr. Murphy. And you take a look, Miss Letby. Take a moment to have a look there. This is dated the 1st of August. First of all, can we see your signature anywhere in this section of the form? She replies, yes, for the lipid. For the lipid. Does the mouse work? I think they've got some computer issues. Does the mouse work? The one that's just by you there. Do you want to see? Point where my signature is. So point where your signature is. That's your signature. Thanks, Miss Letby. Are you able to tell us in summary what you signed for? What this represents on the 1st of August? She replies, so that is starting a lipid infusion. You said transfusion there. So that is starting a lipid infusion, Mr. Myers. And we know that because across the left-hand side, it's got lipid on that line, hasn't it? She replies, yes. What time did that lipid infusion start that you signed for? She replies, 0020 on the 2nd. Mr. Myers, so that's what we have on the next to last column on the right-hand side. She replies, yes. And we can see going right of that, it says 3rd of August, 15, 0010. What does that tell us? She replies, that's the time that the infusion was taken down and discarded. Mr. Myers, so would that box be filled in when that infusion is taken down? She replies, yes, only once it's been taken down. Mr. Myers, so what does that tell us about when it was taken down? So what does that tell us about when it was taken down then, when we look at that box? She replies, it was taken down at 0010 on the 3rd, and that's because lipid only lasts 24 hours. Mr. Myers, all right. Yours isn't the only signature in the box. Why is there someone else who signed it? She replies, because myself and the other signature are the ones that have drawn up that lipid and commenced it. And it says over speaking there, need 2 signatures. Mr. Myers. Right, 2 signatures. Going left of there, we've got the date. We know that, the 2nd of August, and then a signature. Who is it that signs the box where it says prescribed by? Whose role? Lucy Letby. That's the doctor who's written the prescription. Thank you. That lipid was started at 0020 on the 2nd of August. Was there already a TPN bag up at that point? She replies, yes, there was. Mr. Myers. How do we know there was already a TPN bag up at that point? She replies, the column above is referencing the TPN, and it says a continuing 48-hour bag. Is that your writing? She replies, it is, yes. Was that 48-hour bag eventually changed? She replies, yes. So if we look on the end column, it was changed at the same time as the lipid syringe on the 3rd of the 8th. Mr. Myers, right, at 0010. Is there a significance in these timings around about midnight when it comes to the changing of bags or syringes? She replies, midnight is the time that we tend to change our fluids, so that's standard practice for it to be around midnight. Mr. Myers, so that's why we tend to see times around midnight for this. She replies, that's right, yes. Thank you very much. If we move down, please, Mr. Murphy, to what's down as day 5, the 2nd of August, 2015, we can see days 5 and 6, as they're put here. Let's look at the 2nd of August. Have you signed for anything on the Babevan line for the 2nd of August? She replies, yes. What have you signed for? She replies, I've signed for the Babevan and for the lipid syringe. Mr. Myers, and somebody else has co-signed with you? She replies, yes. All right, stop there for a second. All right, okay. Right. Okay, so, Mr. Myers, What happened with the TPN, the Babevan? What are you signing to show? She replies, I'm signing to show that a new bag of TPN has been commenced on the 3rd of the 8th at 0010. I guess that's right. Does that follow on from the one that was above it that we saw that finished? Yes, on the 3rd of August. So this is continuing. She replies, this is a new bag. So it's following. The bag was taken down in the box that we've just looked at, and this is the new TPN and new lipid. And that's what those two entries refer to, TPN and then lipid. She replies, yes. So both starting now on the 3rd of August at 0010. She replies, yes. Mr. Myers, how long is a TPN bag meant to last for? She replies, TPN bags last 48 hourly. And the lipid, is that meant to last a particular time? She replies, 24. So that's what's going on the 2nd of August. Looking below that, someone's entered something in error and scrubbed that out. Is that correct? She replies, yes. So the next item we come to is at day 6, which is at tile 147. And we do have this in paper if you want to follow it, ladies and gentlemen. I'll let you know when I suggest we definitely need to go there. But if you want to follow it, it's in paper form in divider 6 of jury bundle. It doesn't give a number, but we're putting it on the screen. And that's divider 6 of jury bundle 2. There we go, but it's on the screen in any event. Looking at day 6 then, the 3rd of August 2015, we know that on the 2nd, just after midnight, you'd signed for a bag of TPN that was hung up. So what's happening on the TPN line for the 3rd of August? She replies, this bag is now 24 hours old, which means it doesn't need changing. So I'm signing to say it's a continuing bag that's running. This bag is now 24 hours old, which means it doesn't need changing. So I'm signing to say it's a continuing bag that's running. Mr. Myers, so that's your signature where it says given by. Is that correct? She replies, yes. But you've not actually given anything as it happens at that point. She replies, no, that's why it's a single signature, because nothing new has been started. It's me confirming that the bag is the same bag that was running the day before. Mr. Myers, is that why it says continuing 48-hour bag? She replies, yes. And the column on the right-hand side of that says time and date finished. What's that telling us? She replies, so that's the time that this TPN bag was discontinued. Mr. Myers, right, thank you. Are you able to help us with what's happened where it says on the next line down, day 7, the next box down, the 4th of August 2015? Can you help us with what's happened where we see various things, but then a line put through it? She replies, so that is, the first prescription has been crossed through and re-prescribed by the doctor. Because in the top box, the baby's receiving milk, but in the bottom column, it isn't. So the prescriptions had to be changed. Mr. Myers, can you explain what you mean by it? Can you explain what you mean by that a little more? You can use the mouse if you need to point things out to us, Miss and then Lucy Letby. This signature here indicating is myself and another nurse to say that a TPN bag was started on the 5th of the 8th at 0025, and lipid was not required because the baby was receiving enteral feeds, which we can see in the enteral column here. So what we notice in the prescription below is the baby is no longer having milk feeds. Therefore, lipid is needed to be prescribed, and therefore it has had to be crossed through above and rewritten on the next prescription. Needs to be prescribed, and therefore has to be crossed through above and rewritten on the next prescription. Mr. Myers, the one that's crossed out was done on the basis that the baby would receive, that child F would receive an enteral milk feed. She replies yes, and therefore did not require lipid. Right, which is why it says not required, but something has changed and he is now requiring lipid, which means the prescription needs to be rewritten. Mr. Myers, so what we have at day 7 on the bottom that we can see without the line through it is the prescription that was actually followed. Is that right? She replies yes. Let's look at that one. We can see signatures and we can see a time on the right-hand side, the box to the right for the TPN, and it says 0025. What does that say? What's the date? She replies the 5th of August 2015. Can you tell us, first of all, what's happened there? She replies, a new TPN bag has been started. Mr. Myers, when was that TPN bag hung? She replies, on the 5th at 00:25. Mr. Myers, did that replace the one that had been there? In fact, Lucy Letby, it's the same bag. So the TPN bag is the same in both. It's the same bag in both of these prescriptions. Right. It's just at the bottom, this one here indicating, is now a lipid infusion that's starting at a later time of 3 a.m. Mr. Myers. So where we see the time starting at 00:25 for the 5th of August, that corresponded with the entry at the top. Yes, it does. If we just look at the bottom of this page for where it says time and date finished, yes. If we just look at the top right-hand box again, can you see there, ladies and gentlemen, that bag was timed as finished at 00:25 on the 5th of August. So this bag replaced that. She replies, yes. Let's scroll down again to day 7, please. How many nurses were involved in hanging that bag? She replies, 2. That's why there's 2 signatures. That's right. And underneath that, can you tell us what's happening where it's got a reference to lipid? She replies, in which one, sorry? On the 4th of August 2015, we can see a line for lipid. Could you just tell us what that tells us when you, and then Lucy says, the one that's crossed through? Mr. Myers, no, the one for day 7 that isn't crossed through. She replies, so that is 2 signatures to start a lipid syringe. It's not my signature, but it's 2 members of staff who have started a lipid infusion at 0300. Mr. Myers, I'm going to ask if we can go next, please. Pause for a moment, because of course we know from the chart we looked at earlier that at 01:54, so an hour and 25 minutes after this bag had been hung, Child F's blood glucose had dropped to 0.8. Lucy Letby, yes. You're aware of that, Miss Letby? Yes. When you gave evidence last time, I asked you about what's been said with regard to the insulin. And since we're dealing with it now, I'll ask you again. Is there anything that you did or that you know of that accounts for a drop in the blood sugar at that time? She replies, no. When we looked at the chart, we saw that between 154 and 255, if you have the chart, you can refer back to it, ladies and gentlemen, there was an increase in the blood sugar, in fact. Let's just look at how that happens. Can we put up tile 139, please, Mr. Murphy? Scroll down, please, to the 5th of August. Down towards the bottom, we can see at 2:55, the blood sugar has increased to 2.3. Can you see that, Miss Letby? She replies, yes. I'm going to show you another tile and then ask you a question about it. That's the change in blood sugar. Can we see at tile 191, please? Can we look at tile 191 next, sorry, which is a prescription. If we look 4 lines down, can you see we have an entry at 2:05 on the 5th of August? Yes. Can you tell us what's happened there, please? She replies, that is a 10% dextrose bolus that has been given, so 3 ml of dextrose. We know the blood sugar has risen to 2.55. Yes. When we looked at the blood glucose. Yes. Mr. Myers. We know also recorded that increase of blood glucose between 4:02 and 5 o'clock in the morning from 1.9 to 2.9. We know also recorded that increase of blood glucose between 4:02 and 5 o'clock in the morning from 1.9 to 2.9. Looking at this chart, can you see anything that could account for why it is that the blood glucose increased for Child F between 4:02 and 5 o'clock that morning? Can you see anything that could account for why it is that the blood glucose increase for Child F increases? Can you see anything that could account for why it is that the blood glucose increases for Child F between 4:02 and 5 o'clock that morning? She replies, yes, so he's received another dextrose bolus at 04:20. Could you move the cursor, if you would, so we can see what you're talking about? All right, thank you. So are you identifying the line for us, Miss Letby? It'll respond now, or should. Oh, they've got a mouse problem. No, it's not. Here at 04:20, indicating. Mr. Myers, right, so that's a dextrose bolus that's received by Child F between the readings at 4:02 and 5 o'clock. She replies, yes. When the blood glucose increases. She replies, yes. I think this is the last page of this, I think. So I check. No, it's not. Got another 10 pages, Christ. Right, Mr. Myers, had you been working on the night shift on this particular day or night? She replies, yes. So what time would your shift have ended? She replies 8 a.m. Mr. Myers, right. Would you have concluded on the unit at that time? She replies, around that time, depending on when I finished handover. But yes, around that time. Mr. Myers, just keeping that in mind, can we go, please, go next to tile 261, which we also have in paper, ladies and gentlemen, at page 3144. For anyone who's following it in paper, I'd like us to look at the entry for day 8, the top box for the 5th of August 2015. Just make sure we can all see that. Were you responsible for the care of child F at this time when we come to August 5th? She replies, no, I wasn't. By this time, I'm looking at an entry that says 12 o'clock. Can you see that? She replies, yes. We can all see that. Your shift had concluded that morning. She replies, that's right. Looking at what we can actually see for the TPN bag, which is the top line that says Babevan, can you tell us what has happened at or about 12 o'clock on this particular day? She replies, yes, so at midday on the 5th, a new bag of TPN and lipid has been prescribed and signed for by 2 nurses. Right, so the 2 nurses are in the column headed given by. Is that right? Yes. That's not your signature on any of them. No. And the time that this was started, she replies, that's 12 midday on the 5th. Right, stop there for 2 seconds. I can't help it. It's a mechanical one, all right? They make a clicky sound. I can't help it. It's a very loud keyboard. And I've also got AirPods in with noise cancellation, so I can't really hear how loud it is. I can't hear how loud my voice is, and I certainly can't really hear the keyboard either. So, yeah. Right, let's have a look here. Jill Pendleton has been out for a fancy meal. Hope you've had a good evening, Jill. Thank you for joining us this evening. Right, okay. Right, so we've got about 8 pages of this left. And I also need I need a refill of my green tea. Excuse me, so let's get this finished. Then I'll make myself a quick cup of green tea. And we shall continue with the cross-examination. But we'll finish, as I say, the evidence in chief first. Right, so we've got Mr. Myers again. He's got in brackets something that says new long line. She replies, yes. By way of reminding us all that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury may recall, then child F's line had been identified as tissuing during that morning. She replies, yes. This is just reminding us of the evidence. The TPM was stopped for a period and Nurse Shelley Tomlins told us how the line and the bag were changed. She replies, yes. If a line tissues and it's necessary to change the bag, what would you change as part of that procedure? She replies, standard practice is that everything would be discarded and you would start again with everything. New fluids, lines, everything would be new. Mr. Myers, and you say that's standard. Why is that standard practice? She replies, because the TPN is sterile. So the moment you disconnect it from a line or stop it running, it's therefore no longer sterile. So practice is that once you've broken that line, you've disconnected it or you have to stop it. You would discard that and start again. Mr. Myers, we've heard the evidence about how that happened from the nurses dealing with this. Yes. If we just look for a moment, and I'll ask Mr. Murphy to take us to tile 200, the entry on the left-hand side for 11 o'clock or thereabouts. We can see the timing and see what's been signed for down at the bottom in the text. It's got here a signature at the bottom of SAT. Yeah, that is right. Lucy Letby replies, yes. Do you know whose initials they are? She replies, that's Shelley Tomlins. Shelley Tomlins. Yes. And what has she signed that has happened at this time? She replies, a new long line has been inserted into child F at this point. Mr. Myers, and that's together with the change of TPN. Yes. We know that even after that, the blood glucose levels remain low. Yes. And they remain low until about 7 o'clock that evening. Do you know why they remain low, even after there has been a line and a bag change? Do you know why they remain low, even after there has been a line and a bag change? She replies, no. But at this point, is this the same bag that you had hung up at midnight or just after midnight that morning? Sorry, what the hell? Or just after midnight that morning? She replies, no, it isn't. Just read that again. But at this point, is this the same bag that you had hung up at midnight or just after midnight that morning? She replies, no, it isn't, Mr. Myers. And is it the same line? It's not, no. Can we take that down, Mr. Murphy? We've seen how on a later date or dates you continue to care for child F when you were back on the unit. Yes, is that correct? And no issues are identified then? No. And you're asked for a... What the hell? Is that correct? And no issues are identified then that you're asked for account for. I just want to ask you something about Facebook searches at this point. We saw from the schedule that between June 2015 and June 2016, there were 2,381 Facebook searches conducted. Yes. Just to remind us, you looked for the mother of child E and F 9 times between the 6th of August 2015 and the 10th of January 2016. Lucy replies, yes. Mr. Myers, and the father of child E and F on one occasion in October 2015. Why did you search for the mother of child E and F or put her details into Facebook? Lucy Letby. Searching people on Facebook is something I would do. Quite often, the mother of child E and F was on my mind, following child E and F. If somebody came into my mind, that's what I would do. I just searched their name. Mr. Myers. Does that just go for people at work, or does it apply to people elsewhere? She replies, nope, it could be anyone. And does it apply just to babies on this indictment? She replies, no. Is there anything unusual in you looking at someone who's on your mind on Facebook more than once? She replies, no, that's a normal pattern of behaviour for me. We've been told about a card that was sent by the family of child E and F to the unit. Yes. I'll remind us what the agreed facts said, ladies and gentlemen, so you don't have to turn there unless you want to. If you want to make a note of the agreed facts, it was agreed facts 39 and 40, and I will just remind you of what they were, Miss Letby. Images of the thank you card from the family of child E and F were recovered from the images on the handset, on your phone handset. So she's taken a photograph of the sympathy card for the parents of child I, but she's also taken a photograph of the card sent by the family of child E and F to the unit. And those photographs were recovered from the phone. Right, okay. Yes, Mr. Myers, I'm not putting all the figures in. And further analysis of the data from those images establishes they were taken at 3:40 a.m. on the 20th of November 2015. Yes. And the coordinates indicate that it was taken in a location in the south corner of the Women and Children's Building at the Countess of Chester Hospital. Right? Why did you take a photograph of a thank you card from the family of child E and F? She replies, it was something I wanted to remember. I quite often take photographs of cards that I've been sent or that I receive. Mr. Myers, is there anything unusual in you doing that? She replies, no. So interestingly, just as a side note, we've got that card that was sent to the parents of child I. That photo, the photograph of that card was taken at the place the child died, so in the hospital. And this is also the same thing, isn't it? The coordinates indicate it was taken in a location in the south corner of the Women and Children's Building at the Countess of Chester Hospital. But I mean, I guess you could say that card is going to remain there, isn't it? It's not going to go home with Lucy. I would imagine that card is going to remain on the unit. So she would have to take a picture of it there, wouldn't she? Logically speaking. All right, let's carry on. Mr. Myers. I'll come back to that when we look at child I, in fact. As for the time this was taken, I wonder whether we could just part the shift pattern for page 33225, which is in jury bundle 2, divider 23. If you want to see the shift pattern in paper, but we can put it on the screens, it's page J33225. This image was taken at 3:40 in the morning on the 20th of November. This shows for us November 2015, your shift pattern. What were you rostered to be doing on the 20th of November? She replies, I was on a run of night shifts at that time. When had they started? She replies, on the 19th. So, round about the time this photograph was taken, in the early hours of the morning, where would you have been? She replies, at work on the unit. Do you recall where the card was when you took the photograph of it? She replies, yes, it was on the nurse's station at work. Mr. Myers, and that's where you took the photo. It is, yes. Whilst you're at work on that shift, yes. Which is why we have the time 3:40 in the morning, yes, and the location in the hospital, yes. All right. And nothing unusual for you to take a photo of a card that you've taken or received. Is that what you're saying? She replies, no. Okay, final page. I'm going to return to that a little later. Those are the questions that I had for you with regard to child F. Miss Letby. As I've said before, I won't repeat myself each time. I appreciate moving from one baby to the next might seem a bit inelegant, but it's not meant to be insensitive. But we do need to move on and look at the next charge that we are dealing with. Are you all right with that? And she replies, yes. Right, so that's the end of the evidence in chief for child F. Right. The legend that is Jude Whitbread with the £2 super chat. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. And as I say, if you do wish to support the channel and the stream, you can find out how to do that down in the video description box below. All support is greatly and honestly appreciated. Right, okay. Right, so that's the evidence in chief. Some 49 pages worth. Let's just pop up the cross-examination and then change the photo, hopefully, to this one. There we go. Right, so just have a break for a couple of seconds. Right, stay where you are, because I'm just going to make myself a quick green tea. So I'm now going to introduce the Be Right Back banner, and I'll be back with you in about 2 minutes. Stay where you are. Okay, we're back. We are back in a business. Let me just quickly edit the next banner before we start. Where are we? Edit this one. Cross-examination. F, right. Okay. That should be it. Right, okay, let's just catch up with the chat very quickly. I think I'm sure I saw someone talking about sugar in green tea. Who the hell would have 2 sugars in a green tea? That is insanity. And yeah, don't forget to hit that like button if you don't mind. Someone did put 2 sugars. There we are, look. Tweeter and the Monkey Man causing all sorts of chaos in the chat here. 2 sugars in a green tea. Craziness. Right. Okay, let's make sure I haven't missed anything. No, I haven't. That's fine. Okay, right. It was Tweeter and the Monkey Man. Right, okay. So now this is going to be Lucy Letby's cross-examination, again on the same case, the case of child F, where she was asked questions by the prosecution and the barrister Nicholas Johnson KC. And he says the following here. I'd like to move on now to the case of child F. If you haven't put the interviews away, ladies and gentlemen, it's probably a good time to do it. I don't know where you put them, ladies and gentlemen, on Friday, but the defense statements, please, I'll start with that. You deal with this case as follows. Paragraph 79. I did nothing to hurt child F. Then paragraph 80. I did not administer insulin to him or interfere with any of the total parenteral nutrition bags as to make this happen. Total parenteral nutrition bags as to make this happen. So as to make this happen. Because I know I didn't do this, but I'm being blamed for it, I cannot accept that the material readings and measurements over the relevant period or blood analysis are necessarily accurate. If child F did receive insulin that he shouldn't have received, I did not do that. Then paragraph 81. I wasn't the designated nurse for child F on the 4th to the 5th of August 2015. Paragraph 82. I do not specifically remember hanging up the TPN bag at 0025 on the 5th of August. I think I signed for the bag and nurse A hung it. Then 83. If you change a long line, then you change the TPN bag. Finally, paragraph 84. The TPN fridge is locked. You have to get the key from the shift leader in order to gain access to the fridge. Is that what's in that document? Lucy replies, yes. And is that true? Yes. Do you dispute the readings and measurements over the relevant period? She replies, no, I accept them now. At this point I didn't, but I do now. Yes. Okay, that's fine. And by readings and measurements, what are you talking about? She replies, the insulin level and the C-peptide level. The reason I asked you the question in that way is because there are a number of issues here. The principal issue, of course, is the one you have identified, which is the insulin and C-peptide. Yes. But there's another issue as well, isn't there? Which is the blood sugar levels, yes, of child F over the period with which we are concerned. Yes. So you've accepted the first point. Do you accept the blood sugar level readings? She replies, no. I think there may have been some discrepancies. Mr. Johnson, right. What are you saying? We'll go to the specifics, but what are you saying in general terms are the discrepancies? She replies that there were values that were different on lab results compared to results taken either on the unit or on the blood gas machine. Mr. Johnson, well, there is only one single lab result, isn't there? Lucy Letby, I can't recall. Do you remember the evidence of Professor Hindmarsh, who told us about there is always a discrepancy between lab results and, yes, blood gas readings because of the morphology of analysis. She replies, yes. Because it's a spun sample, I don't off the top of my head remember the precise detail, but there tends to be about a 10 to 15% discrepancy. Lucy Letby, yes, I wasn't aware of that detail. I wasn't aware of that until then. But putting that issue to one side, apart from that issue, are you disputing the readings of, in effect, the gas machine on the ward? She replies, no. No, all right. And just paragraph 82, I'd like to ask you a question about that. You say you don't specifically remember hanging the bag, but you think nurse A hung it. Yes. Nicholas Johnson. It's probably me being a bit slow, but I don't understand how those two statements go together. You either remember it or you don't. So, do you remember? She replies, no. Well, why do you think nurse A? Because I signed the bag with nurse A. Nurse A was child F's allocated nurse. I don't recall hanging up the bag. So to me, the only other person who could have done that is nurse A. So because you don't remember doing it, it must have been her. She replies, well, I'm not saying it must have been, but I think yes. Nicholas Johnson. You'll remember, I'm sure, that on the 18th of May, I asked you whether you agreed that child F was poisoned with insulin. Yes. Remember that question? Yes. And you did agree? Yes. As you agreed that somebody must have given him insulin unlawfully? Yes. Do you still agree? Lucy replies, yes. Another question I asked you was whether somebody had targeted him specifically. Do you remember that? She replies, I don't recall, but... Right, well, I am suggesting that somebody did target child F specifically. Do you agree or not? She replies, I can't answer that. You did agree that a mistaken administration of insulin wasn't an option here. Do you still agree that? She replies, from the neonatal unit, yes. I don't think that could have happened on the unit. Do you accept that somebody put insulin into the TPN bag or TPN bags that was or were connected to child F? She replies, I don't think I can say exactly what was in what bag, but I accept that he was given insulin at some point, yes. But the insulin has to have come from the bag, doesn't it, given the evidence we've heard? Do you accept that? She replies, yes, if that's the evidence, yes. Yes. When you were arrested, you didn't know about C-peptide, did you? She replies, no. You didn't know that if a blood sample was taken from a child who was being given exogenous insulin, that fact could be proved by the disconnect in the ratio between the level of insulin and C-peptide. You didn't know that, did you? She replies, no, I didn't know anything about C-peptide results, no. But had you ever heard of C-peptide? No, no. In answer to questions from your counsel, and again, that's what we've just been over, in answer to questions from your own counsel or under questioning from your own counsel, you asked a series of questions about the insulin and TPN being in the same fridge in what is a busy room. Yes. But whether or not the room was busy, somebody put insulin into that bag, didn't they? She replies, if it's agreed that insulin was in that bag, I can't say where it went in, whether it was on the unit or elsewhere. I can't answer that. Mr. Goss, the judge, I'm sorry, elsewhere? Where else? She replies, the bag comes from the CVAS unit. Mr. Goss, so it could have been done by somebody in the CVAS unit. Is that what you're saying? She replies, I can't say, but Mr. Myers, she doesn't. What the hell? She doesn't. She doesn't. She cannot say where it went, wherever it went in, if it went in. Mr. Goss, but you're positioning that as a you're positing that as a possibility then? She replies, yes. Mr. Goss, all right. Lucy Letby. He's asking if it was put in on the unit. I can't answer that, but potentially the bag has come from another area, and I can't answer what happened in that other area. Mr. Johnson, so that you can bear this in mind as we go along, this is one of the reasons that I'm dealing with child F and child L together, all right? Yes. Because I'm going to suggest to you that the insulin that went into child L's dextrose bag definitely went in on the neonatal unit, all right? Okay. We'll come to the reasons for that in due course. The bag was changed, wasn't it, at midday on August 5th, after you had gone off duty. Do you remember that? Yes. And so, given that the evidence shows that insulin continued to be administered to child F, either the giving set wasn't changed or a second bag was contaminated. She replies, yes. Do you accept that? Yes. I'm going to come to the population distribution now, please, which is at tiles 100 and 101. 101 is best, please. Here we see, beginning with nursery 2, that you were in nursery 2. Child F was a designated charge of your friend, nurse A. Lucy replies, yes. You were with the baby ME. Yes. In nursery 3, there was, so far as we can tell, a single child, CE, and 2 children in nursery 4 being looked after by Valerie Thomas. Lucy replies, yes. There is an anomaly in the sense that there were 2 other children in the unit that day. Lucy replies, yes. One was JE, who was being looked after by Cheryl Cuthbertson-Taylor, who had a baby in nursery 3. Yes. From a practical point of view, was it common for one nurse to have a baby in nursery 1 and a single baby in nursery 3 as well? She replies, sorry, can you say that again? Nicholas Johnson, yes. I'm going to suggest to you that normal practice would suggest that because CE was in nursery 3 with Cheryl Cuthbertson-Taylor, the overwhelming likelihood is that so was the child JE. Lucy Letby, it's likely, but it's not, I can't ever say definitively. No, of course not. Well, there was certainly no shortage of space in nursery 3, was there, on that information? She replies, no. All right. That leaves one other child, EJ, who was being looked after by Sophie Ellis, who I think on the 23rd of November told us that she couldn't remember where he was. Lucy Letby, okay. Nicholas Johnson. But insofar as we can determine the locations of these children, the child with whom we are principally concerned, child F, was in the same room as you. Lucy replies, yes. All right, 2 seconds. Okay. Nicholas Johnson, are you suggesting that staffing levels have in any way, contributed to the poisoning of child F? Lucy Letby, I can't say how the insulin got there. I can't answer that. But it's nothing to do with staffing levels, is it? She replies, I don't know how the insulin got there, so I can't possibly answer how it might have happened or why. Nicholas Johnson, well, somebody has. Hasn't somebody deliberately put insulin into the bag? She replies, if the evidence is accepted it's gone in, yes. And that can't have anything to do with the staffing levels, can it? She replies, again, I don't think I can answer that because I don't know where that insulin came from or where it was put in to answer that. Or where it was put in to answer that. Nicholas Johnson, as you wish. Lucy Letby, whether it was on the unit or elsewhere, I can't tell you that. Nicholas Johnson, when you were interviewed by the police, you were very keen to know whether they had access to the TPN bag, weren't you? Yes. Why? Because I was being accused of placing insulin in the bag, and I thought if the doctors had raised an issue and these levels were so abnormal that somebody would have thought to check the fluids, which is what we do routinely. As we've seen in other cases, we will keep the fluid bag if there were any concerns. Nicholas Johnson, but even if an analysis showed insulin was in the bag, that wouldn't prove that you had put it in the bag, would it? She replies, no, I don't understand what you're asking me. Nicholas Johnson, well, I think you've just... Lucy Letby, I wanted them to check the bag, yes. I felt that would have been standard practice. If at the time the doctors had concerns about the results, then they would have checked the fluids or made a point of looking and reflecting on the fluids. You wondered whether there was an issue with something else, didn't you? Lucy Letby, no. No? Can we look at your interview, please? Lucy Letby, where is that, please? It's in the first bundle of interview transcripts, so interview bundle 1. Just to refresh our memories, particularly as we're jumping around in the chronology, the first interview took place on the 10th of June 2019. Do you see that? Lucy replies, yes. So this was it's behind divider 1. You remember that was a case, we were told, that was only referred to the police because of what happened to child E. Do you remember? That's why the first interview is a year later. Lucy. Oh, okay, yes. So at your first arrest, 2018, you weren't asked any questions about child F or child L. Lucy Letby. No. Do you remember that? And the reason was, as Dr. Evans, I think, told us, he was then sent sibling cases from what he had identified as being suspicious cases. Yes. So that's the, lest anyone has forgotten, that is the reason why you weren't interviewed the first time. If you go to page 16, please, midway down the page, you ask a question. Excuse me. 2 seconds. I'll have a sip of the old green tea a second. Bear with me. So this is Lucy Letby asking a question in police interview. Can I ask a question about this in terms of the bags and everything? I'm assuming they haven't been kept or checked, post-event. Nicholas Johnson, you knew very well, didn't you, that the bags hadn't been kept? Lucy Letby, no, I didn't know whether the bags had been kept. Did you think it was likely they would have? Oh, hang on a minute, guys. Right, let's try again. Nicholas Johnson, did you think it was likely they would have been kept? She replies, knowing that I kept a bag of fluids for child A and other babies, I felt that if the doctors had raised a concern at that time, then yes, potentially the bags would have been checked. Yes. Well, let's see what you were saying in this interview back in 2019. It's towards the bottom of the page. Is it likely the bags would be kept? 5 lines up from the bottom. And what was your answer then? No. To be fair to you, at the bottom you are then asked, you have asked a question, so are there cases where they might be? And you say, if there's a baby there's been a concern about, we would keep the bag. Usually ask someone to check that bag or check the pump. But you knew, didn't you, that no concern had been expressed at the time? No, I did not. About the bag, didn't you? I didn't know anything at this point, at this interview. No. Do you remember me asking you a few minutes ago about whether you were thinking there was another way out for you? Whether there was some other issue with the bag or an issue with something else? Yes. And you said no. Yes. Just look at the bottom page. If you look at the number 3,100, counting up from the bottom of the page, three of those question. So again, this is the police officer, I believe. Okay, is there a reason why you've asked that question? What's going through your mind? Asks the police officer. And what did you answer? When something's happened in that time, you are asking me if I have given him insulin, and I'm wondering if there's an issue with something else. What was on your mind at that time? What was that something else? Lucy replies that the insulin had come from somewhere else other than the unit. Mr. Johnson, how would the presence or absence of insulin in the bag have assisted with the question of whether or not the insulin came from the unit or from somewhere else? She replies, it wasn't, but at this time, I don't think it was suggested it was in the bag. We didn't know where. We didn't know where the insulin had come from. No, you did though, didn't you? No, I did not, because you put it there. No. Mr. Johnson, my lord, that's probably a good time for a break. I'm not going to finish this case in the next 5 minutes, so they have a little short break there. And they come back at 11:58. Let's just catch up with the chat quickly before we continue. Did I say thank you to Jill Pendleton? I don't think I did. Thank you so much, Jill, for the £4 super sticker. Greatly appreciated. If you wish to support the channel, you can find out how to do that down in the video description box below. But thank you so much to Lenny Russell, Valor Hawks, Jude Whitbread, and Jill Pendleton. Greatly appreciated. Right, okay. All right, let's have a 10-second breather, and then we'll continue. Right. Okay, so they return from the break at 11:58. Mr. Johnson, do you remember telling the... Oh, hang on a minute. I've done it again, haven't I? There we go. Mr. Johnson, do you remember telling the police in an interview that you were not aware of there being a concern of child F having blood sugar problems? She replies, no. You don't remember saying that? At police interview? Yes. She replies, no. If we go back a couple of pages from where we were, do you see She replies, yes, almost exactly halfway down. Were you aware, Lucy, as to the concerns for child F regarding his blood sugar levels at the time? Okay. And you say, no. Yes. You were aware, though, weren't you, at the time? No. Can we go to the sequence, please? Told 222. This is after you've just gone off duty. Yes. Did you hear what child F's sugar was at 8? Yes. Do you still say you were not aware? She replies, no, I was not aware in this interview in 2019 about blood sugars, no. You were aware at the time of the concern for child F's blood sugars, weren't you? She replies, yes, at the time, because I was there. And you were telling your friend Nurse 8 at told 224 1.8. Yes. And her response was, shit. If we look at the next, had you ever seen anything like this before? She replies, babies with low blood sugars, babies with low sugars. Mr. Johnson, yes, but being given all this dextrose and still having low blood sugars. She replies, yes. You had? Yes. You were trying to put it down to natural causes, weren't you? She replies, I don't think I was trying to provide an explanation. I was just stating what the levels were. Let's look at tile 341. What does that say? Wonder if he has an endocrine problem then. Hope they can get to the bottom of it. What did you mean by an endocrine problem? Lucy replies, the babies that I've previously seen needing the levels of glucose that child F was needing were babies that had endocrine problems, hyperinsulinemia. Does that mean natural causes? Sorry? Does that mean natural causes? Lucy replied, yes. So you were trying to suggest natural causes, weren't you? She replies, yes, the only other babies I had seen like that had a condition, yes. And you didn't know about C-peptide, did you? No. Do you accept that the TPN bags are not secure? She replies, no, I don't. But the fridge is locked, I don't. At what point? I think the bags are secure, yes, in the fridge. Secure in the sense they're under lock and key, is that what you mean? She replies, yes. They're not secure from someone with the key who wants to tamper with them, though, are they? She replies, no. Do you remember the evidence of Mr. Allen, Ian Allen, on the 29th of November? She replies, not in full detail, no. Do you remember him demonstrating how you can take the supposedly tamper-proof cap off a bag of TPN? Yes. And inject insulin into the bag? Yes. And the tiny amount of insulin that's required to produce results like this? She replies, yes, but the bags in the fridge are sealed, so you'd have to break the seal to do that. Yes. You either do it as the bag is being put up. And who was putting the bag up? Just remind us. Myself and Nurse A. Yes. Or you do it once the bag is up, and you were there, weren't you? She replies, I was there when the bag was hung. Yes. Yes, and if we look at the staff levels, the staffing arrangements for this shift and the shift we're about to come to with child L, only 2 people are common to each shift, aren't they? She replies, yes. One is Belinda Simcock, and the other is myself. Yes. So because the bags are in a seal, as you've just described, what would that prevent someone from the previous shift having... would that prevent someone from the previous shift having put insulin into the TPN bag without leaving a trace? Just read that again. So because the bags are in a seal, as you've just described, would that prevent someone from the previous shift having put insulin into the TPN bag without leaving a trace? She replies, I don't think I can answer that because I never put insulin into a bag, so I can't say how it would or wouldn't be done. No, but in telling us about the security of these bags, you referred to the seal. You describe to us what that seal is, please. She replies, so the TPN comes within a cellophane bag. How do you get into the cellophane bag? She replies, you would tear it open, yes. At the time of drawing up the fluids, yes. Yes. It may be on your behalf the jury would be invited to consider whether or not someone on the previous shift put insulin into this bag, which came up at 4 p.m. She replies, I can't answer that. Well, yes, but you can help us with the likelihood of it, though, just by answering a few questions, if you would. First of all, do you agree with the evidence that we heard that these bags come up from the pharmacy at about 4 p.m.? Yes. So this was a bag that, if it had not been tampered within So this was a bag that, if it had not been tampered with in the pharmacy, must have been tampered with sometime between about 4 p.m. on August 4th and about 0100 hours on the morning of the 5th. She replies, yes, if it was his prescribed bag, yes. If it was a generic bag, no, but prescribed, yes. This was a prescribed bag, wasn't it? She replies, okay, that's the evidence. Okay. The replacement bag was a generic one. Okay. So let's just think about this. A prescribed bag came up at 4 p.m. How robust is the cellophane covering for the bag that has to be torn open to get access to the bag? She replies, it's cellophane, you'd have to rip it. Is it completely sealed? Yes. Okay. So you saw Mr. Allen demonstrate to us how the supposed tamper-proof cap isn't a tamper-proof cap at all, didn't you? Yes. So in order to get insulin into the bag once it's come up to the ward, if it's still in the cellophane wrapper, you have to get the insulin through the cellophane wrapper. She replies, yes. You have to get the cap off the bag, still in the cellophane wrapper. Is that right? She replies, if it was put in through that port, yes, yes. She says, I don't know. The bag was, and then there's overspeaking, Mr. Johnson. I know you don't know, but the jury may want to consider whether this is possible, you see. You don't have to get a needle through the bag and through the tampered cap. She replies, yes. Inject insulin into the bag. Yes. Replace what was thought to be a tamper-proof cover. Yes. And do all that without leaving a trace, on the cellophane wrapper. She replies, yes, if that's how it went in, yes, yes. Whereas the other way of doing it, if it came up from the ward without insulin in it, is to do it once you've removed the cellophane wrapper. Is that right? Yes. Which is something that, given the timings that we're talking about, only a person on your shift could have done. She replies, yes, yes. And there are very few candidates for that, aren't there? She replies, yes. Why would you not put insulin in one of these bags? She replies, why would I not put insulin? Yes, because that's against all practice. TPN does not have insulin in it. We do not add insulin to anything unprescribed. It is highly dangerous, isn't it? Yes, yes. Life-threatening to a child of this age. Yes. And this is something that would never cross the minds of the medical staff that someone had done, is it? Isn't it? Well, did it cross your mind? At the time? No, no. All right, let's go to tile T151, please. This is the intensive care fluid chart, isn't it? Filled in by your friend, Nurse A. Do you see that? Excuse me. She replies, yes. There is an entry at 0100 hours, isn't there? Can you see that? She replies, on the right-hand side, yes. Yes, it says NG asp vomit. And there are 4 pluses here. Yes. I don't think we've seen 4 elsewhere, but here we do. Yes. That we heard in evidence was a large vomit by child F. Okay. And we also heard from Professor Peter Hindmarsh that vomiting is a classic symptom of low blood sugar. Okay. Do you remember that? I don't accept that if that's what he said. Yes. That vomit was because by this stage, do you remember what Professor Hindmarsh said about the half-life of insulin? No. If it's in an infusion, because of the rate it's eliminated from the body, you get to the steady state in an infusion after about 25 minutes. Okay? Okay. Do you remember that now? Yes. And of course, this is about, if we're looking at strict timings, it's 35 minutes after, that's assuming that 1 o'clock is bang on the 1 o'clock. It's 35 minutes after this infusion was started by you and your friend, Nurse A, isn't it? Yes. Do you accept that insulin was either in the bag when it was hung, or it was put into the bag shortly after it was hung? She replies, yes. I mean, how can people say, she's literally agreeing. Do you accept that insulin was either in the bag when it was hung, or it was put into the bag shortly after it was hung? Yes. So do you accept that child F was poisoned deliberately? She replies, I can't answer that because I don't know how the insulin got there, or who put it there, or why. I can't answer that. Nicholas Johnson, I'll come back in due course to your searches on various parents in this case, but the mother of child E and F in particular was somebody you were searching for all the time, isn't she? Yes, frequently, yes. Why was that? She replies, the mother of child E and F was somebody who was often on my mind. Child E's death did stand out to me, and I often thought of them as a family. I got on well with the mother of child E and F at the time. What about child F? Lucy Letby, I wanted to see how child F was doing. What happened with child F that made you think of him? Because I got to know the family, and obviously he was a surviving twin of child E. Oh, that's the end of it, I think. Yeah, that's the last bit. Right, so that's the cross-examination for child F. There we go. 1 hour and 30 minutes. The cross-examination does deal with F and then L, one after the other, but I decided just to keep this in order, really, and, continue the next stream with child G. It'll be next, won't it? So, but what we're going to do, so the next live stream isn't going to be tomorrow, I'm afraid. It's not going to be Wednesday. It's going to be on Thursday. So Thursday is going to be the next live stream. No, it's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be Wednesday. So it's going to be on Thursday. And then Friday, we're going to have a members only stream. So Thursday and Saturday will be the next public streams. Lenny has kindly gifted 10 memberships this evening. So that's superb. If anyone wishes to become a member to join that private stream on the Friday, you can do that by joining the channel. And the link for that is down in the video description box below. So the next stream, which will be Child G, will take place on Thursday, and then we'll have streams on Saturday and Sunday also. Anyway, thank you so much for the support this evening. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you to the moderators, which are, as always, Terence the Legend Stamper and Lenny Russell. Greatly appreciated for your assistance this evening. For all the kind donations, so that will be Lenny Russell, Valor Hawks, Jude Whitbread, and Jill Pendleton. Your support is greatly appreciated, as always. And as I say, next public stream will be Thursday evening, and I would imagine that will be at 8 o'clock. Thank you so much to each and every one of you. Thank you to Amanda. I've just seen your name pop up there in the chat. Thank you to you as well for your continued support. And, as I mentioned in previous streams, it's really great to see the same people attending and tuning in each and every night to these live streams. So I can only thank you for your viewership and for your continued support. Have a great evening, guys. And as I say, I'll be back on Thursday, and I'll see you at 8 p.m. on Thursday. Have a great evening, and I'll speak to you soon. Goodbye.